Hello guys, this is Oroth and a warm welcome back to my channel. I'm finally back with another video. I've been quite busy in real life, but I thought that what I'm gonna show you now is something that I really have to highlight. And what this is a new crusader build that you can use in open world or in terror rifts, but it has a very cool twist. And this will be unlike anything you have ever seen before, at least most of you I think. So yeah, let's dive straight into it. And before we look at the timeline of today's video, I'm just gonna explain briefly what is the main purpose of this build. And this build revolves around this essence called Squire's Truce, which allows you to bring a passenger onto your horse. This essence has been around since the release of the game, but I have never seen anyone utilize this properly. And yeah, I'm gonna show you why on the next slide here. Because when we use this skill as it is, before we start to modify our build, we can see here that we have like 11-12 seconds cooldown. And whenever you use this skill, it allows someone else to mount your horse, so you can take a passenger onto the back of your horse. But whenever the duration of the horse is over, that person will fall off. And then you have to use the skill again 12 seconds later, and they have to click to get on it again. And of course, this is not good enough, and I think that this is why a lot of people have overlooked this essence. But yeah, I thought that this is one of the most fun and cool essences in the game, and if I can somehow make this work, it's gonna be one of the coolest builds I've ever created. So let's move forward and see if I manage to make this essence work properly. First, we can look at the timeline of today's video. We're first gonna have a look at which skills we will be using. Then we're gonna look at the set pieces. We're gonna look at all the essences. We're gonna look at which legendary gems I am using. And then we will do something, or at least talk about something very cool. And we're gonna equip a necromancer. And yeah, it's quite awesome, to be honest. Then we're gonna see which Paragon I'm using. We're gonna look very briefly at which Warband remnants I want active. And then we have a very important segment which shows certain attributes that are necessary for this build or this concept to work at all. And finally, we're also gonna end this video with a terror rift where you can see this build in action and how it performs. So this is the timeline of today's video. Here we have the skills, and as primary attack we're gonna use Sacred Fire. We're not gonna use the primary attack that much, but it can sometimes be useful if we are fighting like a purple boss or something similar. We're gonna use Drawn Quarter. We're gonna use Condemn, Consecration, and Falling Sword. The set pieces I am using is 4 pieces of Angmet and 4 pieces of Vitus. You could probably try some different options as well. You need to have at least 2 pieces of Vitu for the beneficial effect duration. But other than that, feel free to experiment a little bit. I like the Angmet because if you have 4 pieces, it puts a dot on the targets, which works very well with this build. But you could also go for 6-piece Angmet or go for 4-piece Banquet or something like this. But so it's kind of optional. So let's look at the essences. For the helmet slot, I'm using Gleamthorn Crown, and it turns your consecration into an AoE that follows you. And AoE damage is always very good, both for for open world because it damages the whole pack, but it also puts dots on the targets. So yeah, this is why I chose to include this essence. For the chest piece, nothing strange here. We have a Heart of Grandeur, and it turns your Condemn into an AoE that follows you. And this is a must-have in this build or any open world build with Crusader, because it goes very well with one of the offhands that we're going to show later. We have the Shoulder Essence, Civic's Advantage, and it increases the duration of your horse, which is very important for this build to work at all. Then we have the cool piece in this build, which is the Squire's Truce. And as I mentioned earlier, it allows you to take a passenger onto your horse. For the first main hand, we use Horn Splitter. This lets your primary attack apply a dot on the target. But as I mentioned earlier, if you build this build the way as it should be built, you don't really need to use primary attack that much. So this is here, but there is nothing else better to put there. So this is the best option. For the second main hand, we have Luminous Rain, which becomes like a massive AoE that follows you, and you use Falling Sword. And yeah, a staple for any open world build. And we have Gates of Hell, which lets Condemn do a little bit more damage against enemies below 50% health. And finally, we have Torrential Refrain, and what it says is that whenever Condemn deals damage to a target, it resolves all the remaining dot damage. So for example, if you have a dot effect like Viper's Bite on a target, and then you hit it with Condemn, it will deal all the dot damage at once, and you don't have to wait for all the ticks to happen. And yeah, these are the essences, and if we look here, there's nothing really strange going on. I mean, most Crusaders use similar essences to this when they are farming in open world, but it's the pants here that are the stars of this build. And if we can make this work, it opens up a whole new world with a lot of possibilities as a Crusader. So let's look at the legendary gems I'm using. First of all, I'm using Blessed Pebble, and this is to increase the beneficial effect duration. I use Igneous Scorn, and this is very useful in open world farming because it makes an explosion every 6 seconds whenever you do a critical hit. And these explosions also spread dot effects onto other targets. Yeah, this is very important in open world farming. I used Viper's Bite. It's a dot effect. And yeah, it's also very good because it's 100% that it will apply it to a target whenever you deal damage to it. I use Volatility Shard because it also deals explosions that spreads dots or kills off targets. I use Seeping Bile because it's also a dot effect that can spread. So for example, if I sometimes miss one monster in a pack and don't deal damage to it, the Seeping Bile effect will spread to it and trigger explosions on that target instead. So it's just a good gem to secure that each mob dies in a pack without me having to stay around and wait for the kill to happen. I use Roiling Consequence. It's a super strong gem for all types of content, to be honest. Here you both get a dot effect and you also increase your critical hit chance. So it's that this gem is a monster. I use Bottled Hope because it gives me some extra damage, but I could also switch this out for Void Spark, or I could use Everlasting Torment. I mean, these gems are gems I'm using right now, but there are many options in this build, depending on if you need to deal more damage or if you just want to have more dots and dot activators, as I call them. A dot activator is, if we take Void Spark for example, it helps you to deal damage to all the targets nearby in a very easy way. And whenever you do so, you will trigger this chain where you apply Viper's Bite and trigger explosions from Igneous Scorn or Volatility Shard. So a combination of dot legendary gems and dot activators is something I really recommend for especially open world farming. And finally, I'm using Blood-Soaked Jade. I'm gonna be on my horse, so that caps my movement speed. So I don't need Blood-Soaked Jade for the movement speed, but I need it. I don't really need it, but it's good for the extra damage as well, of course. But as I mentioned, there are other types of gems that can be useful in this build. So here comes the coolest part of this build. You can equip someone else onto your horseback, and the best person to equip onto your horseback is a necromancer. Because the necromancer, they have this essence that we can see here called Putrid Onslaught. And what it does is that it makes a circle, an AoE damage circle around each skeleton. Because the thing is, the person who is sitting on your horseback, they can't use their skills while they are on there. But if they have this essence as a necromancer and they use command skeletons as a skill, the skeleton's AoE effects will actually make damage. And what's so cool about this is not only the fact that you as a crusader can utilize the necromancer skill, but you can also start perfecting this build even further. So instead of utilizing 8 different legendary gems in this build, you can utilize 16 different legendary gems in this build. And here are a few examples of great gems that the necromancer can use. You have Everlasting Torment, Volatility Shard, Igneous Scorn, Void Spark or Starfire Shard. I could also recommend Swenson's Haunting. And yeah, there are a few other options that would work great. And what's only important here to note is that if the Crusader is using any type of dot legendary gems, the Necromancer should not use the same type. Because if we take Viper's Bite, for example, if the Necromancer applies Viper's Bite to target, the Crusader can't apply Viper's Bite to that target. And we want the dot effects to be applied by the Crusader, because the Crusader is using Torrential Refrain. And that effect on the offhand only works with the Crusader's own dot effects. But it's it's super duper cool that you can start like making even more complicated builds. And of course, for me, it's not necessary to equip this Necromancer on my horseback, but maybe if you are missing some important gems, like Volatility Shard or Igneous Scorn, this Necromancer on your horseback will help you to take you over the edge, so you don't have to stop and kill anything manually. You can just ride through everything and it will die. So equip a Necromancer. It's hilarious, to be honest. What we also want to use when we are in open world farming in general is the Warden Paragon. We could also use Treasure Hunter, because maybe you need some extra materials or extra gold. But if you want to be just as powerful and fast as possible in open world, we need to increase our size. And Warden will increase your size by 5%. And I will explain to you on the next slide why this is important. When another thing we have to look at is which Warband remnants we have active. And if you have Protector Room activated and you have this remnant, you will increase your size even further by 15%. And so make sure that your Warband has this remnant active in the Protector Room. It's a very good remnant, not only for open world, but also for PvP. And what I can say is that size is very important, because it increases your movement speed. For example, I can explain it like this. if you have normal size, your base speed is 100. And if you manage to increase your size by 20%, then your base speed turns into 120. And whenever you get a movement speed buff, like when I'm on the horse, for example, it adds 60% movement speed. And it will calculate on top of your base speed. So if you have a base speed of 100 with the normal size, you will gain 60 speed from the horse. So a total speed of 160. But if you are 20% bigger, you will gain 60% of 120, which is 72. So you will have 192 speed instead. And yeah, so if you don't increase your size, you will be slower than if you're bigger. So always go for size whenever movement speed is of importance. And here is one of the most important segments of this video, because if you remember in the beginning when we were using the horse, the cooldown was like 12 seconds. So that would not work, because if we want to bring a passenger, he will fall off all the time, and then we have to wait 12 seconds until he can get up again, and that will be a complicated process and you will lose speed. So maybe there's a way where we can avoid this. So let's have a look at it, because there actually is a way, and we're going to focus on beneficial effect duration and cooldown reduction. So first we can look on the build that I have when I use this, and on my waist, my feet, my chest and my legs, I have a total of 24% beneficial effect duration. The max you can get is 30%, because if you have a non-exceptional item, you can roll 7.5% beneficial effect duration on it. So be very careful, because in general beneficial effect duration is super important for not only this build but for all kinds of builds. So the best items that you can find for PvE content is the items that has 7.5% beneficial effect duration. But I know a lot of people, they are only looking for triple stat items, and maybe they're not even focusing on the magical attributes at all. And when you just equip something for the combat rating or just for the normal attributes, there is a lot of things that won't be possible in the game. So pay a lot of attention when you find new gear, so you don't salvage anything that's very rare or very useful. If you look on the necklace, on the rings and my gloves, I have a total of 17% cooldown reduction, and 20% is the max you can get. It's the same thing there as with the waist, feet, chest and legs. If you find a non-exceptional item, they can have up to 5% skill cooldown on it. And for many types of builds, those are the items you want to look for. When I am inspecting a lot of players that has been playing for a long time, I can notice that they are not focusing on the magical attributes on the set pieces. Because yeah, I see a lot of things that should have skill cooldown on them, but they don't have it. They have something else. So pay attention, as I mentioned before. It's very important. Another way to increase your beneficial effect duration is through reforges, and I would say that beneficial effect duration on one of the reforge slots is a must-have. You can have up to 3% on each piece, which gives you a max value of 24%. I currently have 23.5% beneficial effect duration from reforges, so I am almost capped. But of course, I'm going to show you a little bit later, you don't have to min-max everything when it comes to cooldown reduction and beneficial effect duration, but almost, to make this work. I also have a Bottled Hope, and Bottled Hope increases my cooldown reduction by 4.5%. And this is at rank 8 at the moment. If I manage to get it to rank 9, I will max it at 6%. So this is also a good addition, and one of the reasons why I'm using this gem. You also have Blessed Pebble, and the Blessed Pebble will increase your beneficial effect duration to 12%, which is the max at rank 10. Also a very good addition for certain types of builds where you need 100% uptime on something. I also have an Awakened effect on my shoulders, which gives me 10% cooldown reduction on Draw and Quarter. And it's actually the cooldown reduction on Draw and Quarter that is most important for this build. You can also awaken your legs, your pants. That would give you another 10%. And remember that the cooldown reduction is capped at 30%. So you can either get it through the Awakening here or through Bottled Hope, the set items, or a combination of those. But it's not too difficult to cap the cooldown reduction on the horse. So try to do that if you're gonna use this build. So finally, we also have Vitus Urge, and that gives me 30% beneficial effect duration, if I have 2 pieces at least. And to summarize, we have a cooldown reduction on Draw and Quarter at 30%, which is the capped value. And I have a total beneficial effect duration at 89.5%. I have been trying to find out which value you need, and somewhere around 76% beneficial effect duration is needed for this build to work. And yeah, let's see if we manage to succeed in our mission to have this pants essence turn into something very, very useful. So let's have a look here first. So here I have equipped the setup for this build, and now when I use this skill, the cooldown is a lot lower thanks to the cooldown reduction. And you can see the green bar next to the skill icon that goes down. I have increased my beneficial effect duration so much. So what I can do now is that I can use the skill before the duration is over. And why is this so important? Yes, the people that are sitting on my horseback, they will not fall off. So when the uptime is 100%, you can equip someone, like the necromancer for example, on your horseback. And then you just tell them, you know what, you can go and make a coffee, grab some snacks, because I got this. And it's very hilarious, to be honest, because as I said, a lot of people, they are not familiar with this essence. And when you bring someone for the first time and you tell them to mount your horse, they don't understand what's going on. And then they get on your horseback and you start riding that horse with ultra speed. You're killing everything like a godlike crusader. And they are speechless, and they love it. And also they start loving you more. And who doesn't want to be loved? And who doesn't want to be a good friend? So I hope you really try this build out and make sure that you study all the details here carefully to get the 100% uptime. And yeah, this is the whole concept of the build, and feel free to play around with it. Before we say goodbye, I'm gonna put on a Terror Rift for you so you can see this build in action. And I want to wish you a super nice day or evening wherever you are. And to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would like to say Voruk Nyx Sholaksul. So let's go and watch this Terror Rift together. Bye bye.